Next on the agenda meeting is Mrs. Karen McGhee. Who would like to preface that the city of Oxford is zoning.
Yes. Oh, great. Okay, glad I left what I see. One of the things I've been going door to door with folks, running, getting an earful from quite a few people about the cost of housing, and that several people are having to sell their houses because they can't afford it based on property taxes, based on a whole lot of different things. And so it caused me to look to see what was happening in the area, to talk about inclusive growth for all of Oxford. Because one of the things that people talk about is Oxford is such a great city, we're this, we're that, we're the other. But we're all of that because of the people that live here. And my thing is the way we are growing and given the cost of housing is going to displace, I think, a lot of people. So the little diagram there on my left is the smallest house that they have in the Meadows. It's just under 1,200 square feet, sells for $295,900, and they're saying $1,429 a month. Now that $1,429 a month does not include. Let me say what it does include first. 6% financing, 20% down, a 30-year conventional mortgage. Does not include that $1,429 does not include taxes, insurance, or HOA fees. That's a sample monthly payment. So the sign that they have out there that says zero money down, that is not what people are paying. Okay? I have no idea what it is because I didn't go out there and sit with them and try and find out. So that $1,429 is not the zero money down payment. So I went and looked on, and I don't know if you guys got the handout. The handouts also have notes. I don't know if they, probably have to print them out that way. But I got this scenario from DSL Mortgage Company because I wanted to see in terms of affordability. And so on their website, this is what they were saying for a house that cost around $300,000. So their conservative estimate was 20% down, so $60,000. They had to have a credit score of $740. The interest rate was 6.25. They had to have no existing debt. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. And their income is supposedly $75,000. And if that's the case, then they could afford the house because the mortgage would be $1,665, which obviously is more than that $1,429. And they would have, they're estimating that their taxes and insurance are $500 a month, giving them a monthly bill of $2,165. And then the other two are just more moderate, saying that if you had $85,000 income based on your credit score and some other stuff, or aggressive if you made $95,000, those would be the costs, monthly costs for a house similar to that. Next slide, please, sir. So the Census Bureau basically divides households in tiers. And I got this for the Oxford residents. It came from uspopulation.org, which uses the US Census data. And so I looked to see who could afford, just current residents, who could actually afford the house in the Meadows. So those making just under $75,000 who cannot afford a house is roughly 72% of the current Oxford population cannot afford the smallest house in the Meadows. And you'll see in a coming slide that that percentage goes up considerably based on another slide I'm going to show to something like 85%. So next slide, please, sir. So what I did was I went on the city website to see who we had job for, where we had job openings. Police officer, engineering assistant, wastewater treatment operator, and fire engineer. And based on that, those salaries, those individuals that we want to hire could not afford a house in the Meadows without a double income family, obviously. And then I also put in a nurse. I had a registered nurse, ICU at Granville Medical Center. It was by the hour, so I kind of did that thing there and did the math, and $67,000 for them. And then the average, so not beginning teacher, the average teacher salary is $58,000. So all the folks who provide services to us could not afford to live in the meadows. Next page, please. So I want to propose inclusionary zoning. And generally speaking, I'm just going to read it there. Inclusionary zoning involves using a local government's zoning power to encourage private developers to construct workforce housing. That's what they called it in 2010, which is the definition, the time of this definition. In its simplest form, for example, an inclusionary zoning ordinance might require 20% of the units in a residential development to be affordable to workers earning a first year's teacher salary. Right, first year, not average, not that 58,000, but first year. And the programs are voluntary, conditional / incentive, and mandatory. Next, please, thank you. And the North Carolina cities that are currently doing inclusionary zoning in our area are Chapel Hill, and they've done it for quite some time, a couple of decades. It was conditional initially, and then they transitioned to mandatory in 2011. Raleigh, I'll just say it, plays at inclusionary zoning because they have inclusionary zoning, which is conditional versus or incentives, but it only applies to new rental construction in certain areas of Raleigh. And when you look at the map, those areas are not very big. And Apex, to me, has probably the best inclusionary zoning policy. And I actually have their policy handbook, their affordable housing zoning policy manual. And I took that table there from there, but they have a voluntary incentive program that they adopted in 2023. And when I called the planning department there in Apex, chatted with a young lady for about 15, 20 minutes, I asked her, since it became voluntary in 2023, did you have any developers take you up on it? And she said, yeah, 3 developments have been approved since 2023 that allot a minimum of 5% of their units as inclusionary housing. So this table here shows their minimum policy recommendation. So if you have 20 or more lots or units, and you're going to do 5% of those lots or units, then the maximum affordability for ownership is 135% of area mean or median income, with ownership being for 20 years, or rental up to 100% of area mean income, and they negotiate the target income there. So if you go to the next page, it's sort of a summary, because they're quite extensive with their examples. This is just one example for one of the lines there. So I tried to kind of summarize it. So they do a similar kind of breakdown, 80% area mean income, 100 and 135. And they're saying it's a 4-bedroom house, 4 people in the house. And what I thought was interesting is their area or mean income or annual mean income, $113,330 is their mean income in Apex. Ours in Oxford is $48,000 for Oxford, not Granville County, Oxford. And so what's interesting is they have all kinds of details. They have like what the loan to value ratio is, interest, principal and interest loan, property taxes, HOA, other property assessments, homeowners insurance, utilities, private mortgage insurance. They have a complete table to come up with what they consider the total housing cost. And what they're saying is for someone who makes 80% of $113,330, their monthly expense is $1,982.75, or maximum housing cost $276. For someone who's at that same mean, the maximum house they say that person can afford is $292,000. Now, mind you, the house I showed you for the Meadows, the smallest they have, is $295,000. So they're saying someone making $113,000 at the maximum can afford the smallest house in the Meadows.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And then you have 135% AMR, and then then you get really up there. 400, they can afford $420,000 house. Next slide, please. So I just have a recommendation. That there be a joint committee of 7 to 9 members from local governments, builders, financial institutions, and local citizens with a 90-day timeline to deliver an incentive zoning policy, which, we could probably copy a lot of what Apex is doing. And the reason I say a 90-day, kind of a relatively short period of time, is because on the agenda for the 15th are 3 more subdivisions. And if we don't get people to buy in to keeping the folks in Oxford who want to actually stay here, a lot of people are going to be forced out. And one of the things I did actually, right before I got here, I said, how many houses are on for sale? I went to Zillow.com for under 250 or under. And there were 50 in that zip code, not necessarily in the Oxford proper, in the zip code 27565. And then I said, well, how many were built 2000 and up, one house? So, and then the second recommendation is have a conversation with the developers whose projects we've already, have gone through planning and are under construction about considering inclusionary zoning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? And maybe that would explain why only, I believe, 15 city employees live within city limits. So I'll leave it at that. Mr. Toby.
No, go. You go first this time.
Thank you. So, I heard you talking about Chapel Hill, Apex, and I don't believe you said Cary.
No, Cary doesn't have inclusionary zoning.
I understand. But I have some friends who live in Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see those houses that fall within this category in Chapel Hill. I'd love to see any attempts to get a house less than $200,000 in
Right.
Chapel Hill. And my question is,
Mm-hmm.
how about
Right.
I think you said the median income for Oxford or
For
Randall County?
Oxford.
Okay, for Oxford
Yeah,
is
well, Randall County is higher,
48,000.
48.
All right.
Could
Is
you go to the second slide?
there a comparable municipality
Yeah.
that has done this?
No.
Okay.
Because see, the problem
Okay.
is, if you look at Chapel Hill, you look at Raleigh, you look at Apex, they all wait till it's too late,
Mhm.
right? And my thing is, maybe we can get ahead of the game
Mm.
as opposed to being too late.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters who live in Raleigh, and I know what they pay.
Exactly.
Rent.
Exactly. Which is what those houses in the Meadows, everybody feels those houses in the Meadows is for the people in the Triangle, not for the people in Oxford.
The reason I was asking, because I would love to go to a development that utilize.
Okay. I will contact the folks in Chapel Hill, but I did most of my talking with the folks in Apex because of the size, the population. They're somewhere like 28,000, 30-some thousand folks,
I think it's a
as opposed to
wonderful
Chapel
idea.
Hill
I
and
think
Raleigh.
it's a wonderful
Yes.
concept and idea. I would just be curious as to how you pull it off.
Well, Apex
With
seems to be able
the
to do it.
developers wanting to make their money and real estate agents who, want to make their money in
Mhm.
terms of selling houses. I mean, I think the concept is wonderful.
Mhm.
I just am curious, do we have any examples?
Well, why don't we look at Apex as opposed to Chapel Hill?
Okay.
Even
Apex,
okay.
I mean, the housing market in Apex.
I know exactly. You saw what their area median income is, right?
Yeah, 113.
Yeah, hello,
Right.
and they can't
Right.
even, according to them, they can't even afford the smallest house in the Meadows.
Okay. We got
thing
we
is-
got to figure out how we can do it.
My thing is, we got to change that 72% number. Okay, we're not gonna be able to get it to the point where only 35% of the people can't afford it, but it definitely needs to be a lot better than 72.
So
Okay.
to that point, I agree 100%. And I've asked the question, who are they building these houses for? With the median income being 48,000, and you really need about at least 80 with no bills. And who has that? I don't know anybody with no bills. And I just don't. I mean, you got a car note, you have a lot of notes, and internet costs $100.
Right.
Everybody wants
Hey, my
$100.
water bill was $85 this month.
We can't speak on water.
I know. You wanted to throw it in there. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. You didn't. You really did. But that's why I'm a proponent of we need industry in Oxford that will allow our citizens to afford houses.
Exactly.
I have a daughter that's a sophomore. I would love her to be able to graduate, and if she so chose, she could come back to her home, to Oxford. She's born in Durham. She says she's a Durhamite, but I would love her to be able to have the option to come back to Oxford. Some of you have grandkids who are grown now. It would be great if they had the option to come back to Oxford. And not be like me, who my last job in Oxford was when I was 18. So all my money has been made in RTP in Durham. So I would love the salaries that I've had growing up, to be here in my hometown. So that's one of my aims, is in concert with the housing. If we can get our wages up in Oxford, and all of us remember in the 80s, I remember in 85 going through Industry Drive, it was every building was full. It was occupied, and people were doing pretty well in Oxford. And then by the time I came back in 95, it was a ghost town with only a few businesses out there. So we have to we have to have a mindset and mentality as a board and from the county as well, that we need to grow the salaries in our town so that people can easily afford these houses and not be house poor. Because just because you can buy it doesn't mean you can afford it.
Hello.
Karen, I'd like to know what percentage of the 71%?
72.
72% are in the workforce. In the age.
Okay, I don't.
I know you don't have it right.
No, yeah, I don't have it with me, but it is there.
Yeah, I would like to know what percentage are workable.
Well, if I remember right, of the folks, the unemployment in Oxford, I think it was under 15% when I was looking at it. So I'm assuming, those households is somewhere up in there in terms of the 15%. So, but most of these households, these folks are working. Now, what the actual percentage is, I'd have to look it up. But when they were talking unemployment, I think when I looked at it, had more to do with Granville County, I think, than Oxford at the time. So I have to go back and look at those statistics. Good point.
I would just like to know, because y'all see how they do me.
And I'm gonna go run and get a pen so I can write that down.
Because I'm noticing that a lot of young people are trying to retire at an earlier age. Yeah. I've got a friend that's going to be retiring from the state of North Carolina, and believe it or not, she's 48 years old. She's got 30 years in with the state of North Carolina. Yes.
That's good.
So I'm wondering, I'd like to know that.
So so then how many are like retirees? How many?
No. How many when I say the workforce? I'd like to know,
So you're looking at ages. Oh, okay. I thought you were looking at employment. So you want to know the ages.
The ages,
Yeah, because it had ages 18 to 64 is where and I have to go see what the percentage was.
Yeah. Because we got some young folks
Actually.
that the city of Oxford are eligible to retire. Federal government what?
Those are the people that retire at a young age.
Oh, some state employees retire at a young age. And I retired at a young age. Talking about me.
Mr. Toby, after you go after me, Mayor Pro Tem.
That's it for now.
Okay, all right.
You see how they,
Mr.
Mr.
Toby.
Toby, you had a question.
Mister, see, they call you Mister when you're old. I like the idea. I mean, I like the concept. A couple of worrying things is, are we going to have a conversation with developers? I think that's worth
You
it.
have to.
Right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah,
and to have that conversation, would they be willing to cut their profit margin
No,
to lower the prices of some of these houses?
well, they would have to do it just like they do insurance.
Or would the standard of the building would that
Mm-mm.
drop?
They would do it pretty much like you do insurance, right?
That's what I think it's worth having a conversation with them. Actually, it
Yeah.
is. So,
That's what they do. They build the
and that was my
similar housing.
concern.
They
That
just
was my
offer
worry,
it at a lower
Okay.
cost.
well, I like the
Yeah.
idea on your last page.
Yeah, so what we do about okay,
Organize the
that's not my
group.
business. All right, thank you.
Mr.
Can I make one-
Bridges?
That last page.
Commissioner Bridges?
Yeah, and I always am looking for examples. So you're saying that our surrounding counties,
Mhm.
our surrounding municipalities,
Mhm.
none of them do this.
You mean like Roxborough and,
I mean,
and Henderson?
Yeah, Vance
Yeah, I looked-
County,
yep.
Franklin County,
Mhm.
Warren County.
Mhm. Actually, I looked Franklin County because of how much Wake Forest is growing. No, like I said, everybody does it too late.
Right. And you don't want us to be too late.
Thank you. Yes, where half or more of the folks who used to live here don't anymore because
True.
we don't have an infrastructure of buses or anything. Where are people going to go?
My granddaughter's having a house built in Marsfield.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't convince her to come back to Oxford.
I think one other component that's missing, I know it was missing when I went to buy my first house. I should have waited about 6 months, is financial literacy. When it comes to if somebody's going to buy a house, do you know what a point is? Do you
Right.
know the difference in how many thousands of dollars you can save with 1 or 2 points? Hunt sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. Even buying a car, people, they're paying the average car note is like $700 now, which is ridiculous to me. It's like not a BMW. We're talking a Toyota. People are paying that much. And so if you're asking somebody to bring in 20% on a $300,000 or $295,000 house, that's a fair bit of change that most people in America nowadays with this inflation just don't have. So if we can get to our children early and teach them these things, they'll be able to be much better consumers, smarter consumers, and they'll be able to afford these houses because they'll be able to save some money as opposed to just being a consumer and spending every dime that you have, and teach them how to invest their money.
Right. And being the treasurer for the Fuller Center, which formerly Habitat for Humanity, like the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, great folks for this kind of information you're talking about. It's all there on the website, all that kind of information in terms of home buyers, education for them. So yeah, it's out there. But the question is, do people know to look for it? So,
Thank you.
all right.
very much.
Thank you.